Evan is the interesting one. I think he has to ride 100% for GC.
Yeah.
This isn't the Tour of Turkey climber start list. It's a higher level here with a 10K 8% mountain TT, but he's got to give it a crack, right, Benji? Try and get a top 10.
Yeah, I think so as well. We don't know how far he's going to get, knowing that we don't know how Turkey translates to this race, like you mentioned, but I think you're in that position. You're in second. They need the points, and that is what matters here. I think that for Israel, it would be very good that Patrick Bevan takes points in GC. Even if it's just the top 10 position, it would be good for them.
100%. And let's talk about that right now. We spoke about Lotto the other day. Fuglsang and Woods are on 40 and 50 seconds respectively. That's not insurmountable to get into the top 10. Bevan, as Benji said, second, has to try. Stacking 3 riders in the top 10 is what they need for points. But Fuglsang and Woods not winning GC. It's too far gone, and Bevan's not winning either. He's not going to outclimb Dennis in either day. So I don't believe in going into races with point farming as your 100% goal when you're a World Tour team, but once the win's out of reach, you guys should go for your best anyway. So I don't think Fuglsang should sacrifice for Woods, or Woods should sacrifice for Bevan, or vice versa. I think they should all ride for their own GC, because Israel are in the relegation zone and they are in big trouble. If you haven't been following the relegation battles stuff, there's been fortnightly articles on lanternerouge.com.au written by Raul Bankeri. I contribute to them as well. And Israel are in that 19th position below Cofidis, who are 18th and safe at the moment. And that's a 900 UCI point gap as of Monday this week. Israel started the year, I believe, or earlier in the year, had about 1,000 or 900 point lead on Cofidis and was safe. They'd had a bad 2020, a really good 2021, where they were ranked, I think, like mid-pack, and then they've not been good this year. What do you expect from them, Benji? Van Mark couldn't do any of the classics. Nizzolo crashed in Sanremo. Is Fuglsang washed, or can he top 10 Romandy here and Swiss? Because they really need him to.
The thing about Fuglsang is that I don't think he's completely washed, but he's coming towards the latter part of his career, and that's why it still boggles my mind that someone at Israel decided to sign this man for 3 years last year. The lesson 1 of cycling transfers, also made by Patrick Lefevre as a clear lesson, because he never breaks this rule. Above 35 years old, you get a contract of 1 year, unless you're a rider that 100% will perform for the 2 years that you sign him up for. And Fuglsang for 3 years is a risk. What can he do this year, though? When it comes to Romani, he just needs to get as close as possible in GC, like you mentioned, but I'm not going to lie, I don't really see it being that easy getting that top 10. Yes, there's likely not going to be 25 people that go for GC in this race in the coming 2 days, but it's not looking too proper at the moment. And like you say, I also don't feel like Israel is really going for 3 riders in the top 10 at the moment. I feel like they're offering each other up for each other. And as a consequence, they'll likely end up riding for one another and therefore reduce their chances of having multiple riders in a top 10, for example. And the same really goes for Woods. I do think that Woods is a rider that I expect to do better than Fuglsang in GC here. The thing is, I have not seen Fuglsang in this race, or I don't recognize him in his shirt at Israel. It's so difficult, because when I look at those Israel riders, I'm like, there's Woods, there's Bevan, where's Fuglsang? It's like he's always hiding in Romandy. And I don't know, I just don't see it for him in this race. But you're right, Tour de Suisse is coming up. They need to make sure they get as many points as possible in GC races, because there's not that many one-day races in this part of the season that benefit those riders. I do think that the Italian Classics can offer up opportunities, but that's also a combination with the Vuelta. You can't send, you have to choose.
Fuglsang has to do Vuelta for GC. I decided the other day. It suits him.
Yep. And Woods for Milano Torino and so forth then?
Well, Torino already done. But
now.
No, but Piemonte, to your point, Piemonte might be the climbing parkour this year. And so, I agree. You read my mind. Woods to do the Italian Classics. and Fulsang GC Vuelta, and then both obviously world champs. Israel need to be like, you guys need to do as good as possible at world champs. In
Yeah.
fact, use another bike, use a specialized tarmac at world champs, so you can get a better result in your national colors than on the factor. But yeah, Fulsang, I don't think is full washed. Of course, I don't think he's probably worth. No, not probably. I don't think he's worth a 3-year deal and the money they're paying him. That money, I'm not sure, came from Sylvan Adams though, Benji. I think
Yep.
that was from Premier Tech
Mhm.
along with the Canadians. So if you were Sylvan Adams, just thinking about it, if you were in his shoes, you come in, you facilitate the Giro Grand Depart or Grande Partenza in Israel in 2018. Froome wins that Giro. You then sign Froome, big long-term deal. You're trying to buy straight into the top to be relevant at the Tour de France, putting big money down to do that. And then it's just not going. That's just not happening. Like Froome got dropped today. They didn't even show him on camera. He got dropped with Brandon Rivera, who's got a contract at Ineos because he's friends with Egan Bernal on a 4% 4K climb. Froome's dropped. So Froome's done, obviously. We know that. Would you be enjoying this if you were Adams? Instead of sipping champagne with a guy at least in the fight for the podium at the Tour, your team's in the relegation zone to get relegated from World Tour. That's not what I think he signed up for. That's where I think he's not paying that Fulsang money. That came from Premier Tech. But as I said, I didn't finish my point. Fulsang, 13th at Liège, could have done better. He let out Woods. You're not washed if you get that result, making G2
Mhm. Yep.
in Liège. You're still a good rider to some degree. Valenciana, he was very good as well against a good start list. The problem is the races he'll be sent to, his focuses. But as I said, Welter, top 10 GC, I think well within his capabilities. But what's your prediction? You think they'll leapfrog Cofidis?
Oh, I actually don't think so. Like, I'm
Really?
not bullish at all on Israel at the moment, and perhaps I'm underrating what Woods and Fulsang will bring to the table in the coming ones. Perhaps I'm underrating how much this team was being destroyed by illnesses at the start of the season, which they were completely, which hindered their points certainly. But I've got a feeling that it's the team's own fault, not the riders, but the way it was managed. I think if you like, no offense, but if you sign Froome for a 5-year, well, for whatever amount of years that he signed for Israel for 5 million a year, and he signed Fulsang for 3 years, like, the majority of transfers that this team has done is buying riders near the end of their career that are over their peak, that are almost proven over their peak, and try and, like you say, buy themselves into the top. No, that's not how you build a sustainable team. The way you build a sustainable team that can fight in the future is buying and investing in the younger aspect and therefore securing a future for your team. And now they didn't do that. And as a consequence, it's their own damn fault that they're in this situation. I have got no empathy for this.
And their best bit of business kind of fell into their lap. Simon Clark, he's been unbelievable,
Yeah.
but he's on the contract. Benji was saying he's not on a monster contract, a 1-year deal at Israel, and he's been unbelievable for them this year, scoring points and relevant even in Omloop, 11th, and yeah, just unreal. But that's the thing. I looked at they need Van Mark to sort of do well at Britannia Classic. They need a lot, and Nizzolo's key. Nizzolo is the signing who they thought would top 3 Brugge de Panna, top 10 MSR, do well at Torino, and he crashed in San Remo Poggio descent. So listen, everything that could have gone wrong for them so far this year has gone wrong. I'd say older riders not recovering as well is something also that could be expected, but they need Nizzolo to bounce back. I'm kind of bullish on him, although Greipel has struggled sprinting at that
Mhm.
team as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can leapfrog Cofidis, who are 100% committed to points hoarding, who have the French calendar that they go to, who have Benjamin Thomas, Welsh half brother of Geraint Thomas, and yeah, a whole host of riders doing really well. But yeah, it's a shame, but also interesting to track. Let us know what you think will happen with Israel Premier Tech. One thing before I round off this long talk about it is, if Lotto get relegated, it's not as bad as for Israel, because if you fall fast in the last year of the 3-year cycle, you are really fucked. You don't get the auto invites to stage races. Benji mentioned this earlier in the week. Lotto will get auto invites and become the new Alpes and Phoenix. Israel probably just one-day races. So that's with no Tour de France, Giro, Vuelta, that is a tough sell for sponsors. Unfortunately, that sport, there's winners and there's losers. But yeah, as I said, I know people on that team, and it's not good to be going through that as well, particularly when it probably, with their budget, the last few years could have been avoided. Thanks as always to Zwift for supporting the Lanterne Rouge Cycling podcast. As I've said, they make your online cycling training fun. They have for Benji and myself. If you want to check out Zwift, you can go to zwift.com for a free 7-day trial through the link down below, and maybe follow them on Instagram as well to be kept abreast of the news happening with Zwift, which there's some pretty big news coming this year with Zwift.